All right. Hello there, experts. Welcome back to another episode. We're actually recording our 50th episode today. And while we're reflecting on this and would love to celebrate, this milestone just really feels kind of trivial to celebrate at the current moment when there is a pretty serious humanitarian crisis happening in Gaza. Of course, we're not a political podcast. We do not pretend to be, and we are not the most knowledgeable people out there about the history of this conflict, but we still feel like we have a responsibility to touch on it. Our hearts just truly break for every innocent civilian, both Palestinian and Israeli, that have been affected by this crisis, and it's just made us have a lot of uncomfortable conversations.
And we are going to go into our normal banter and conversation and episode that we have planned for today, but we do recognize our massive amount of privilege in this world, in this life, and we want to make sure that we address this topic because it has definitely been weighing on us, and we also heavily encourage our audience to educate themselves on this conflict and continue having conversations around it. We are going to link some organizations that we have been following and donating to, and if you have any resources or recommendations that you guys really like, please feel free to let us know, and we'll be happy to share it.
Yeah, we love you all. We love this community, and yeah, just sending love to everybody.
Audio Jungle. Today, we have a topic that I actually was inspired by via what? A TikTok. The topic we're going to talk about today is dealing with jealousy. And it's basically this reel about the panic years. The 20s are what she defines as the panic years, where like you're basically just in a race with everyone around you, just trying to figure out your entire life before you hit 30. And it's just a constant desire to be better, but then also having to deal with feelings of being stuck. And I don't know, I just listened to that and I was like, wow, so true. And I think a big part of navigating this specific era of life, and it's not just your 20s, like Priya just made a great point. Jealousy kind of follows you throughout life because typically you're comparing yourself to your peers in the same phase of life as you. Everyone has this innate desire as a human to feel like they have met expectations and just like be at the same level as their peers. But I think a big part of growing up is understanding how to deal with those emotions of jealousy. I think it doesn't get easier because the things you get jealous about just kind of become bigger and bigger.
Yeah. One thing from that panic years video you sent was there's this ticking time bomb until you're 30 and you're like, oh, before I'm 30, I need to have a successful career. I need to be married. I need to have a house. I need to whatever. And then also I need to be present. I need to live my life. I have to travel the world. And there's just this finite amount of time that you get to do these things, and that's what fuels this rat race. Maybe you have one bucket full, but you see someone, like maybe you're stable and you have a house and a marriage or whatever, and then you see someone able to travel the world and have that flexibility. And yeah, all of this is fueled with jealousy, and it's so rudimentary in a way. At the end of the day, it's like, you have something I don't have. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like a very childish thing. It's almost like your inner child talking to you and like throwing a tantrum. Something that we were talking about is usually your triggers of jealousy have to do with your own insecurities or maybe areas of your life that you are unsatisfied with. And if you can build the self-awareness around it, that can be more of a signal to you to be like, oh, why did this trigger me so much? Maybe it's because I'm craving something in my life that I'm not giving attention to. And like a lot of times that's what jealousy can bring up.
And I also feel like some aspects of jealousy are triggered by the idea of accomplishing something. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like sometimes when you're in a period where you feel more stable, not lots has been happening to you. Maybe you've not been promoted yet. Maybe you see people getting into grad school and then you're like, oh shoot, should I go to grad school? Like, why don't I do that? In our case, like maybe we see like a brand new podcast that like just grew its audience really quick. Even if it's something that you've never even considered, it puts it into your head, oh, maybe that's something I would want. There's this type of jealousy that's like a longing for an accolade. And it comes, I think, when you go with a period of time where you don't feel like you've achieved enough. But then when you are in a period of highs, you are the one that's getting the promotions, getting the accolades, accomplishing new things. In that period of time, you're obviously just not as jealous. You're like not paying attention as much to other people. I think the ultimate form of jealousy is when people get something that you want, but they seem to get it easily and opportunities seem to come to them with less friction than it does for others. And I think that is the most triggering of all.
It's the most triggering for sure. And when you suspect that someone has gotten something due to privilege, I think it's really triggering. Pretty privilege and like financial privilege. Privilege in general, someone is always going to have something more than you, and you're always going to have something more than someone else, is the way that I like think about it. And obviously this does not always come up when you're in a phase of life where you're feeling jealous about something and you just feel like someone has gotten something handed to them, and you're going to highlight the privilege that they do have and that you don't, right?
And a lot of the times you don't fully know how much privilege they have because you don't know their
nobody
story.
Really knows their story. But I think there's two things. One, everyone has their own set of privilege, and two, it's not fair. Baseline. The world is not fair. We know that. That's just a hard pill to swallow. Some people, including us, are just born into circumstances that are very privileged, and we had nothing to do with it. You know what I mean? Like,
it was the luck of the draw.
The luck of the draw. It's really hard to conceptualize. So much of social conversations these days is like, oh, like, how do we make this world more equitable? Let people have the same opportunities in work, in school, in like all these different arenas where systems have not been built to be fair, you know, and people have privilege and are able to leverage that and leverage it in a way that's like generational, you know.
And companies are built off of privilege too, because it's like, if you can afford it, you can go to SAT prep, but not everyone's families have that kind of money.
No, you could go on and on. Like, there's just this baseline unfairness, injustice in every single system. In order to think about jealousy rationally, you need to give yourself some grace in that. Let's just take a really petty ass example. Someone's born beautiful, stunning even. You know what I mean? Like, someone's just born a stunner. They got all the qualities that are deemed to be beautiful in this world. It's not their fault. You know what I mean? Like, that's just... they got blessed.
Yeah.
But someone else looking at them is going to be like, yo, what the hell? You are experiencing pretty privilege every day. Maybe you get to like have a job based off of your looks that like I'm not able to even attempt. Things like that, which are just baseline unfair. Having that feeling of jealousy that comes up in that situation, you got to be like, I'm going to give myself grace for feeling that because it's true. I'm not going to gaslight myself into thinking that's not a reality. Because it is. Like, someone is beautiful and they get some certain opportunities because of that I don't get. 100% true. But at the same time, you need to draw the line and being like, that's true, but I can't be a victim about it because there are probably some downsides to that privilege too. Like, people might not take them seriously. People might not respect them as much right off the bat. They have to build their respect. I think there's pros and cons to everything in life. I'm not saying the net is always zero, but I think you can give yourself some grace and love when you're experiencing those emotions while not being like, wah, like, I'm ugly. You know, like, that's not productive. You know, that's gonna just like not set you up for success.
I think that's like a really relevant example, especially being female. Oh my God, you see so many instances growing up, like the popular kids. It's not like a newsflash that most of them are pretty good looking. You know what I mean? Most of them come from wealthier families and are able to keep up with the trends. A huge part of growing up is being able to detach yourself from the jealousy, but also being able to admit when you are jealous. That is the first thing that we wanted to talk about. Self-awareness and self-reflection. When you can admit that you are jealous and you can talk about it with someone that you trust, I think it really breaks it down to give you motivation in a way that it's not negative towards the other person. You can go down this spiral of wishing the other person didn't get what they had, which is just like unfair, because you would never want your successes deemed lesser than they are, because you know how much you work towards a certain XYZ thing. And it can be very toxic when you cross that line.
Yeah, that's when you get messy and you give off bad vibes. Like, who are you to say that? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You kind of have to check yourself in those situations, because you can want something and you can be like, wow, that seems really amazing and I want it. But when you get to the point of negativity where you're like kind of wishing something bad for someone else, that's when we got to take multiple steps back.
You have to. I'm not going to say it's never happened. It's like you have to be respectful of someone's wins because they've also worked hard to get there. And like, yeah, some things may have been easier, but that you still have to put effort to get anything. Nothing comes to you on a silver platter. Like some things do for some people that are very, very privileged. But like nothing comes to the average person with negative effort. And also your self-reflection can include feeling bad for yourself. I don't think it needs to be longer than a day, frankly, because I'm like, that means you're just preventing you from moving further in your goals and like your growth, and then be able to kind of reevaluate what you even want. Jealousy is a great way for you to reflect on how your goals are going. And I think it's a good pivot point.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, there was this podcast, this Glennon Doyle podcast that I listened to, where Abby, who's Glennon's wife, was going through something beat, and then her friend was like, what an amazing opportunity to learn that this still bothers you this much. Like, sometimes you think you've moved past something and you're over the hump and you've healed from something, and then you get massively triggered by someone randomly, and you're like pissed about it and ranting about it, and which is fine. I think that's a really important part of the process, to like rant to your friends or your confidants and be like, like you should get it out of your system in an immature way. I honestly think that that's helpful. But then it's like, ooh, why did this bother me that much? When you dive into that, you're probably going to unlock something that's going to benefit you a lot in the long run.
I mean, it's a form of healing, ultimately.
Yeah, either you're going to get over something by just having that cathartic experience of letting it go, or you can recognize that you're unhappy or you want to work towards something in your life that you don't have. All of your experiences and your reactions to the things around you are like information to be like, this is how I can make myself a more fulfilled, happier person. So in a way, I think jealousy is actually a good thing to experience to understand more about yourself. I also think like part of that self-reflection is making sure you're talking to the right people. And this is a controversial take. Like, there's just certain people you should talk to based off of what you would like to achieve from that conversation.
Yeah.
For example, when I'm feeling jealous, in the initial phases, I don't really want someone to talk me out of that rant. Like, I just want someone to listen to the rant.
And be like, so true, sister.
Yeah, I'm looking for a so true sister
And
vibe.
also, I feel like what you want to hear is, you could do that too if you wanted to.
Yeah, you want some reinforcement. You want
some
someone
support,
to just hear you rant and not judge you. That's going to maybe be a particular type of friend. If you're looking for the next step of maybe getting some advice, creating a plan, maybe you talk to a parent or someone else. You know what I mean? But like, there's just different groups of people.
I know. Your parents, I think this is universal, are not the people you want to rant to.
You don't want to rant to them.
No.
Then they're going to be like, why are you ranting?
They'll be like, do something about it. And then you'll be like, okay, yeah, so true.
You're like, so true, I know, but I'm just trying to rant. So that's another tip.
That kind of leads well into your next point, which I know you're very passionate about.
I am passionate about it. This is truly the way that I think I found to get out of jealous spirals and many other spirals in my life. But practicing gratitude and appreciation.
By the way, this is number 2.
This is number 2. I say this with a big, big asterisk that this is the hardest thing to master. I have not had it mastered, and it'll probably be a lifelong journey to get that unlocked because it's deeply, deeply hard. But I do think at the end of the day, if you can ground yourself in gratitude, you can truly get through anything. You gotta be disciplined about it, proactive about it. But I think once you're ready, once you're past that immature emotional state and you're ready to kind of process and start building a plan around what you want, I think starting that process with a sense of gratitude will help you set the right intention for what you actually want to do.
Yeah. And I think gratitude is something that you have to really find what works for you. You know, some people can just sit down, write 3 things they're grateful for at the beginning of the day and like move forward, you know? And I do think it's important to build the habit. Otherwise, it's really hard. But like, I think the biggest benefit of it is that generally you're going to be a less negative person.
Yeah.
And you can genuinely feel feelings of happiness for a person when they do experience any success. I think that is the true key to life satisfaction. It really lets you not focus on what others are doing and what they experience, whether it's a success or a failure, because you see it all as a part of the journey. And I think
of their journey.
Exactly. And growing up in a generally competitive culture, it takes maybe a lifetime to unpack that and also try to prevent that from passing on to future generations.
One strategy that's really helped me that I've been trying to stay disciplined with is just saying a few things you're grateful for before going to bed. I find the morning thing also really helpful, and it sets a good intention for the day. I almost find it more challenging and more impactful to me when I do it at the end of the day, because usually you're busted by the end of the day. But if you're still able to be like, you know what, I'm so grateful that I get to sleep right now. I'm so grateful for this bed. I'm so grateful that I got to like eat dinner or have a laugh with my roommates, like whatever, the little things. I truly feel more like restful in my mind before going to bed when I think about those things. I'm not writing it down. I'm trying to make it as low effort as possible. Whatever it is for you, just being able to like have some sense of the practice can really help you set perspective and get you out of a negative headspace more quickly.
On to our next thing, number 3, folks. Use jealousy as an opportunity to motivate you to actually explore the thing that you're insecure about or the thing that you want. This we touched upon in like some of the other points, but I think a big part of this is figuring out, first of all, why exactly was, like you said, that thing that someone else has, that thing that someone else got so triggering. And then 2, what actual things can I do to improve that aspect of my life or to improve my odds of getting closer to said goal or maybe even the same goal as that person? I think that takes deep reflection, and that is deeply uncomfortable too. When you have to think about whatever you're insecure about and face it head on and actually make steps towards it, you're like petrified. You don't want to fail. That is both a sign of like strength, deep strength, and then also an exercise in vulnerability with yourself. If you're fueled by jealousy, what I notice is that sometimes you become jealous and that thing is on your mind consistently, maybe like for a week. And then that fades too. You know what I mean? Like jealousy is very much a fading emotion. Something that I am starting to notice is when I become jealous about the same things repeatedly.
Yeah.
Whether it's on the same person, I'm still jealous about those same things, or whether it's other people getting those same things, then I'm like, wait, I'm consistently jealous about the same thing.
Yeah.
So maybe that's something that I should change in my life. Or maybe that's a goal that I actually really want.
Yeah, I love that part because I feel like it's identifying the pattern that gives you kind of like a prioritization of what you actually want to focus on. I also think being able to reframe your jealousy as admiration just shifts your energy a lot and like makes you feel lighter. So like a big example for me is we went to the Serena Kerrigan show in New York a couple weeks ago. And one of the examples she brought up was dealing with being single, wanting a relationship, and then seeing your friends in like successful, happy relationships. She just basically was like, wow, I get this amazing opportunity to like look at all these great, healthy, awesome relationships that my friends are in and really clock and understand like what I would want in my own relationship. And that is setting herself up for more success to like find that with the right person when the time is right. way easier said than done. I'm not saying that that's like a consistent experience that you can have all the time, but even every once in a while, if you can think in that lens, I think it can just really open up the amount of possibilities you see for yourself. And jealousy can either be a way that shuts that down, being like, this will never happen to me, or if you can channel it into a form of positive admiration, inspiration even, it can open it up and be like, wait, that's amazing that this happened to this person. Maybe that could be me too. Like, do I want that? Let me figure out a way to get there. It can show you like versions of yourself or your life that maybe you hadn't even thought of. So there is like a big positive side of experiencing jealousy if you can reframe.
And like saying those in your head instead of whatever the jealous thoughts are, I think could really instill that practice in you to get to that point of admiration faster. There should be a healthy level of competition to get you to want more and be better for yourself, you know? Doing that has to come with a set of people that you do admire and like a set of traits that you admire. And having that balance of healthy competition and healthy admiration can really help you grow. And a lot of the times that competition can just be with yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, I think that leads us into our last step, which is being able to get to the point where you can focus on your own personal growth and appreciate your achievements. I think of this in like two different ways. One, I think you would experience less jealousy if you're able to give yourself more love and like appreciation for what you do. Not like this is separate in my mind than gratitude. This is being proud of yourself, like being genuinely appreciative of the work that you have put in and being proud of your accomplishments
and the opportunities you earned with your life experiences.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think that I know is hard for a lot of people. I noticed that it's specifically hard for like women and women of color. I don't know. I just feel like we've been taught to not give ourselves a moment of appreciation. It feels really hard.
I think we are told to be appreciative, not appreciate ourselves.
I do think that helps you experience jealousy less because it just helps you feel more secure in what you got and like your abilities. And then separately, like focusing on what you do want and like getting that tangible inspiration and admiration from jealousy to carve out new goals.
And oh my God, the goal setting is
it's really tough.
Sometimes you feel like you want to reach for the stars. Other days you're like, why can't I even reach the outside? It's such a combination of so many factors. It's a combination of positivity, being at the right place at the right time. It's luck. It's the amount of effort you put into things. It's privilege. It's everything, you know?
Yeah.
But I think being able to identify what your goals are and then make an actionable plan to get there. I think having like these far-fetched goals and stuff, perfect for a vision board, okay? Like great. But for your day-to-day, if you really have something you want to achieve, a very tangible thing that you want to achieve, write it down and then figure out what you can do in your day to get closer to achieving that. And I think everything ultimately becomes a habit. And like you need to build a solid ass stack of habits to get where you want. And your habits will change based off your goals. If you are struggling with like being consistent and like figuring out what your goals are, whatever, take a look at your habits and like figure out how to reorganize them to be fitting to your goals. I think that is probably like the best part of jealousy because it really makes you evaluate your day-to-day choices.
Yeah.
It's like, do I need to be on my phone until 2 a.m. watching TikToks? No, maybe I should make one instead. You know what I mean? Like if that's part of your journey.
Absolutely. And I think in conclusion, jealousy, and not just jealousy, I think a lot of negative emotions can be a guiding force to help you get what you want. But you need to be able to have the right amount of self-awareness and reflection and sense of self, honestly, to make sure that this isn't something you're prioritizing because someone else has it. And it's something you're prioritizing because you actually desire it. That distinction is really hard to make, and jealousy can be triggered by both. And you need to be able to like distinguish between the two.
Yeah. And I think we skipped over this before, but don't let social media cloud you on how much everyone else is doing, everyone else is accomplishing, what life experiences they're having. I think it's really easy, and like we say this all the freaking time on every single episode, how it's just all the highlights of
It's all fake.
all the good stuff, but like there's a whole story behind every single post that you've never heard before. That is what you need to remember when you are in this crazy ass spiral of jealousy.
True that.
Okay, that's what we wanted to chat about.
We love you guys. Sending you all positivity and no jealousy.
Catch you guys later.
See ya.